Dozens of top Republicans are backing Joe Biden's bid for the presidency. The list includes 2016 presidential candidates John Kasich and Carly Fiorina, former Secretary of State Colin Powell, and former Michigan Governor Rick Schneider are also endorsing Biden. So are more than 20 ex-members of Congress, such as Arizona's Jeff Flake and New York's Susan Molinari. Hundreds of staffers who worked for Senator John McCain are also throwing their support behind Biden. The late Arizona lawmaker and 2008 Republican presidential candidate did not get along with President Trump during their brief overlap in Washington. Last week, McCain's widow, Cindy, became the latest high-profile Republican to endorse Biden. She explained her decision on CBS This Morning.
I've been watching the campaigns, both campaigns, very closely. And at this particular time, in this time of crises, and in a country in such turmoil on every level, I just felt like it was the right thing to do. And of course, I've known Joe for 40 years, Joe and Jill for 40 years, and I'm just so pleased and honored to be a part of the campaign. And what I want for my country is the same thing everybody wants. I want a president who has my back, a president that will respect our troops, and a president that is willing to listen and talk to both sides. And I think we see that in Joe Biden.
And another one of those Republicans is Christine Todd Whitman. She was governor of New Jersey from 1994 to 2001 and the administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency in the first 2 years of President George W. Bush's administration. Governor Whitman, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good to be with you.
So first, I would like to get your reaction to the New York Times reporting on the president's taxes. What concerns does it raise for you?
Well, probably the biggest. We won't know for quite a while whether there's anything actually illegal. It just speaks to his doing what, I guess a lot of people would say how great it is that he avoided paying taxes, except not everybody can afford the high-priced lawyers to get them out of paying taxes. But the worrisome thing is apparently he is in debt, and those debts are going to be coming due in the second term, should he get a second term. And that makes someone very susceptible to outside pressures. So that has got to be a concern. And, should we find that he has done something illegal? Of course, that's a major issue and should be a major issue for people. Right now, it just appears that because he has avoided paying taxes, unlike the average person. And it's consistent with the way he's behaved. As I watched him as a governor, the way he behaved in Atlantic City, it was always the small guy, the small contractor, the electrician, the plumber, that he would refuse to pay in full and then say, sue me. And because he could afford the big lawyers and these people could not, he got away with it. So it's consistent with his behavior overall.
And Governor Whitmer, you did not endorse the president 4 years ago. In 2015, you likened him to Adolf Hitler and raised concerns of fascism if he were to take office. Is the first term of his presidency confirming your fears?
Absolutely. I am more worried than I've ever been in my life about the future of our democracy. We have a president who seems to think the Constitution is an inconvenient document, who doesn't respect the rule of law, who demeans people by where they come from, what they look like, the color of their skin, if they have a disability. It's constant. And he's putting us in jeopardy because he has dismissed our allies and cottoned up to people who are clearly never going to be those allies in Putin and Kim Jong-un. Nothing that he's done has changed my opinion that he had neither the temperament nor the intellectual ability to be president of the United States.
And when you take a close look at today's Republican Party, which many people say have become the party of Trump, do you believe you still have a place in the GOP?
Well, certainly not if it's this one, because right now it is the party of Trump. The fact that they did not even attempt to put together a platform says that it's going to be whatever Trump decides it's going to be. That's what we're going to stand for. Well, that's not any strength. That's not a party. We used to have basic principles that all of those who called ourselves Republicans agreed with. And then you could have differences within some of those basic principles as to how to handle them, what to do. But you still had that central core that held you together. My central core and the central core of so many of the Republicans that you have listed who are not going to be supporting Donald Trump in this election, he's not our party. He is not our central core.
And so then, is your decision to endorse Joe Biden based primarily on his character versus the president, or do you actually support the policies that Biden is fighting for as well?
I actually support Joe Biden. He is a decent man. He's an honest man. He is a secure man and a strong man. And he is not going to be pushed far to the left by those in his party. I mean, the Democrats, just like the Republicans, or we used to have factions within the party of the far right, the central, and the more liberal members. The Democrats have that now. They're getting pressure from their far left the same way we did from the far right. We're just further ahead. But he has shown in both the platforms and the programs he's put out, in his history of being willing to work across the aisle and work with others, his choice of Kamala Harris as vice president, showing he will put aside any kind of personal animosity or slight he may have felt if he thinks this is the right person for the job. And that's what I want. I want someone who is willing to work with others from the other party, who focuses on the big issues, who respects the Constitution, who absolutely supports our troops and would never stand silent while Russian troops run Humvees or SUVs, whatever they did, run into our troops in Syria and injure them. And this president has not said a word, much less really challenged Putin on the idea that Russia put a bounty on the head of U.S. soldiers. That's just unacceptable to me, and he's the commander-in-chief. He is not living up to that title.
And so what message would you have to fellow Republicans who are supporting President Trump because, let's say, they believe in some of the policies he's putting into place or with his record with conservative judges, even if they are put off by his rhetoric or some of his past actions?
Well, I would say to look long and hard at this. This is not an election about Donald Trump and Joe Biden. It's about Donald Trump running against the Constitution. And it's what kind of a country do we want in the future? I mean, as the national head of Republicans and Independents for Biden, the point here is to say, look at all these thoughtful former Republican officials and current Republican officials who are saying it's time to put country ahead of party. It's time to look at what the long-term implications are of another Trump presidency, an unbridled Trump presidency. The fact that you have the President of the United States questioning as much as he can the validity of mail-in ballots when we've used them for years, and there's absolutely no statistical evidence to show widespread fraud with them. The fact that he is starving the post office almost to make sure that they're going to have a hard time delivering all the ballots. And this is in the middle of a coronavirus outbreak, a pandemic, and people shouldn't have to be forced to congregate closely together. All these things tell me this is not the right man to lead us at this time.
And as former head of the Environmental Protection Agency, would you like to weigh in on his record there?
Oh, without a doubt. Again, this is a record of not benign neglect. It's not neglect. It's an outright war on science and on the environment. I mean, it's fine to look at regulations and to reassess from year to year to see whether, in fact, we've developed a better way of dealing with particular issues. We don't need the regulation we have, or it could be changed. But this is just a wholesale rollback of regulations, and it's not making people any safer, and it's not helping the economy. I mean, when he rolled back the tailpipe standards, the CAFE standards, you had CEOs of major automobile companies saying, don't do this. Don't do it this way. I mean, sure, it would be like a little relief from what the Obama administration had set up. Yeah, but we're moving in that direction. We have changed things, so we're ready to take this on. Don't pull the rug out from under us. And yet he went ahead and did it. Where he has rolled back the protections on drinking water to supposedly save mining interests. Coal mining isn't losing ground because of environmental regulations. It's economics. It's because fracking is so much easier now. And we have other sources of energy. And by telling the mining companies that they can dump their tailings from the mines right next to water sources, that is putting in jeopardy the lives and the safe drinking water of the people who live in those hollers, who depend on them, on wells, because those piles, those slurry pits are leaching, and they're leaching methane, they're leaching arsenic, they're leaching lead, mercury. Those things are not good for public health, and it's not going to bring back coal mining. So it's counterintuitive to me what they're doing at EPA, and it's going to put us, our health and our environment's health, in greater jeopardy as we move forward.
Well, former New Jersey Governor Christine Todd Whitman, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.